Have you ever felt the chilling sensation of being watched when you're all alone? Meet Sarah, a night owl with an eerie habit of late-night walks. One night, as she strolled through the deserted park, her footsteps echoed. But then, another pair joined in. She spun around. Nobody there. Heart racing, she quickened her pace. The footsteps matched hers. She froze. Silence. A whisper tickled her ear. "I'm right here." She dashed home, locked the door, but the whisper followed. Suddenly her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Nice walk, Sarah." Her blood ran cold. The twist. The police traced the number to her own phone. Now, Sarah never walks alone and always checks her shadow. Ever felt a shadow was more than just darkness? Watch your back. Have your own spooky story. Share it in the comments. And remember, sometimes the scariest things are closer than they appear.
Ever felt the icy chill when you're alone? That's because someone, or something, might be watching. Meet Sarah. One night, she heard whispers in her empty house. "It's just the wind," she thought. But then came the footsteps. Soft, steady, closer. Sarah locked herself in her room. The whispers turned to her name. "Sarah," it called. Heart pounding, she checked her phone. No signal, no escape. Suddenly, silence. Too quiet. Then, a soft knock on her door. She held her breath. "Sarah," a voice said calmly. Her own voice. Panic surged. How could that be? Gathering courage, she swung open the door. Nothing. Just darkness. A chill swept past her, leaving a whisper, "See you soon." Next morning, she found a note on her mirror. "Thanks for the night." Fear clung to her, but if you dare, maybe you'll find out what's lurking in your shadows. Ready to uncover the mystery. Did you hear about the mysterious town where nobody dared to stay after dark? They say if you're caught outside at night, you'll hear soft whispers calling your name. One night, a skeptic named Jake decided to find out if the tales were true. He waited until midnight, standing alone in the town square. At first, nothing happened. The air was still. Then he heard it, a faint whisper, growing louder, calling his name. Jake laughed, thinking it was just the wind. Suddenly, the whispers stopped. Everything went silent. Then, a chilling voice behind him said, "We've been waiting for you." Jake turned around, but no one was there. The shadows inched closer. Panic set in. He ran, but the voices followed, echoing, relentless. When dawn broke, Jake was gone. All that remained were his footprints, leading into the shadows. The old baby monitor crackled, a constant companion in Sarah's new, creaky house. One night, a voice cut through the static, a soft, tuneless lullaby. But Sarah didn't have a baby. She lived alone. She ripped the monitor from the wall, but the lullaby didn't stop. It just grew clearer, closer, coming from the empty crib in the spare room. She heard soft footsteps on the landing. The lullaby reached her door. What's the scariest sound you've ever heard? Share your story in the comments. Think you're alone? You might want to check again. The subway station was deserted, the last train delayed. David huddled on the bench, scrolling aimlessly. A chill wind swept through the tunnel, bringing with it a faint, melodic whistling. The train finally arrived, but it was old, rusted, and silent. No conductor, no lights in the windows. Just the whistling, now from inside the empty car. The doors hissed open. He saw a figure waiting at the far end of the car, its face obscured by shadow, beckoning. What's your creepiest public transport experience? Share your story in the comments. I woke up at 3:00 a.m. to the feeling of a small, cold hand tugging on my arm. "Daddy," my 4-year-old whispered, his voice trembling so hard it shook the bed. There's a tall man in my closet. He's standing on his tiptoes so his head touches the ceiling. I groaned, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, and did the brave dad walk to his room. I wanted to show him there was nothing to fear. I reached his room and swung the closet door open with a flourish. Empty. Just a row of tiny coats and a pile of trucks. "See, buddy? The room is empty. Now let's get you back to bed." He didn't move. He just pointed a shaking finger under his own bed. To humor him, I leaned down on all fours to look. There, huddled in the deepest corner of the shadows, was my son. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, "Daddy, please help. There's someone on my bed." I realized then that the hand that had pulled me out of sleep wasn't small. It was just very, very thin. What is the creepiest thing a child has ever said to you? Share your story in the comments. They say if you stare into your own eyes in a dim mirror for long enough, your brain starts to distort your features. It's called the Troxler effect. I tried it tonight, laughing at the superstition. I watched my face blur and shift, but then I blinked. My reflection didn't. It just kept staring, its eyes wide and dry, waiting for me to do it again. When I finally blinked a second time, it was leaning closer to the glass. Have you ever seen something in a mirror that shouldn't be there? Share your story in the comments. My phone has this helpful little glitch. Every time someone walks past my front door, the haptic engine sends a double pulse vibration to my wrist, a digital heads up. Usually, it's just the mailman or a neighbor's dog. It's a comfort, knowing I'm always aware. Tonight, I'm lying in bed in the absolute silence of my house, and the phone starts pulsing. Not a double tap, but a long, continuous, violent vibration that hasn't stopped for 3 full minutes. In my mind, I can see it. Someone is standing on the porch, leaning their entire body weight against the wood, perfectly still. My heart hammers against my ribs. I reach for my phone to call the police, but my hand hits empty nightstand. Then I remember. I left my phone on the kitchen counter downstairs. My hand slowly moves to the source of the vibration. It's coming from directly under my pillow. Whatever is vibrating isn't my phone, and it's rhythmic, like a purr. What's the most unexplainable thing your technology has ever done? Tell us in the comments. I live with prosopagnosia, or face blindness. To me, every human face is a featureless, blurry smudge. It's lonely, but you get used to it. Until yesterday. I was walking through a crowded train station when a face snapped into perfect, terrifying focus. It wasn't a smudge, it was high definition. A woman with skin the color of wet paper and eyes like polished onyx. She wasn't just a face, she was the only thing I could see. She smiled at me, showing rows of needle-thin teeth, acknowledging that for the first time in my life, I could see a person. Today, I saw her again, standing in my neighbor's garden. And just now, as I'm typing this, I saw her reflection in the black glass of my monitor. She's standing right behind my chair, and for the first time I can see the freckles on her skin as she reaches for my neck. What's your most unsettling encounter with a stranger? Share your story in the comments. The elevator in my apartment is old and temperamental. I stepped in tonight, pressed 4, and waited. But the car didn't stop at 4. It bypassed 5, 6, and 7, gaining speed. It flew past the 12th floor, the top of the building, and kept going. 20, 50, 100. The digital display began to flicker, the numbers transforming into jagged, red symbols that hurt my eyes to look at. The air grew thin and smelled of ozone. When the doors finally hissed open, I wasn't in my carpeted hallway. I was looking out at an infinite, silent field of gray stalks under a sky with no stars. My neighbor from 4B was standing there, his clothes tattered and his eyes replaced by glowing embers. He looked at his watch and sighed. "You took the long way," he whispered. "The others have been waiting for hours. Come on, the transition is almost over." I tried to press the close door button, but there were no buttons anymore. Just a single stone lever. Have you ever experienced a glitch in reality? Share your story in the comments. I've been waking up exhausted lately, so I downloaded an app that records audio to see if I have sleep apnea. This morning, I sat with my coffee and hit play on the 3 a.m. file. It started with the rhythmic sound of my own breathing, then the distinct creak of my bedroom door opening. A door I always lock. A voice I didn't recognize, soft and melodic, whispered, "He's still so beautiful when he's sleeping. It's almost a shame." My heart stopped when I heard the reply. It was my own voice, but the tone was cold, monotone, and ancient. My recorded self said, "I know, but the host is getting weak. We have to hurry and complete the harvest before he wakes up." Then, the sound of sharp, wet snapping filled the room for the next 20 minutes before, finally, I heard myself scream. A guttural, agonizing scream. I rushed to the bathroom and checked my body in the mirror. There are no marks, but I feel lighter, almost as if something important is missing. Everyone jokes about bad internet, but nobody talks about reality lag. It started small with things like my reflection blinking a millisecond after I did. I thought it was exhaustion, but this morning, I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, silence reigning for a full 3 seconds before the sound of crashing ceramic finally caught up. Now, I'm sitting in my living room. I can hear the front door being kicked in. I can hear heavy, stomping footsteps rushing toward me. I can hear my own scream tearing through my throat. But the room is empty. The door is still locked, and I am sitting in perfect silence. I'm waiting for the video to catch up to the audio, and I don't know how much time I have left to hide. The hospital morgue is quietest at 3 a.m., save for the hum of the cooling units. I've worked this shift for 10 years. You get used to the sounds of settling bodies, the escaping gases that sound like moans, the twitching muscles. We call it the dead man's dance. Tonight, however, was different. While tagging a John Doe, the humming stopped. In the sudden silence, I heard a zipper. Not the heavy-duty plastic of a body bag, but the metallic zip-zip of a jacket. I turned around. All the drawers were shut. Then, from drawer 14, the one that held the car wash victim, came a polite, muffled knocking. Not a frantic pounding for help, but the rhythmic, 3-tap knock of a guest waiting to be let inside. And then the handle began to turn from the left.